and we're going to do tab over here. Okay, so now I'm going to show you something else that you should be aware of. So again, I'm not going to save anything. What happens that if we take this and shift and click on this vertex and press the J key, so you can see that now what I've done is actually created a triangle. Okay, now when you're using the subdivision modifier, this is something that you're going to come across in your 3D modeling career, is that you're always going to be using quads, just like here, right? We're using quads to create our 3D structure. But the thing to know about the subdivision modifier, it actually doesn't care if you use a quad or if you use a triangle, because the underlying structure will always be a quad. And we can prove this by simply going over here into this tab, clicking on wire and draw all edges. And now keep your eye on right over here. Look what happens when I go to object mode. See, there is no triangle. They're all quads. So what Blender is doing is that it's always going to make sure that regardless of what you do with the subdivision modifier, if you create the object with a triangle or a quad or an n-gon, which is more than 4 vertices, it's always going to make sure that the object is always created with quads. Okay, so I want you to always remember this as a concept, because in the 3D formula system that I'm showing you, okay, we are actually going to apply the subdivision modifier to capture the low resolution version of our model. Okay, so as an example, I'm just going to go ahead and in object mode, go ahead and click on the mirror again. Then I'm going to click on this level 1 subdivision over here. So let's go over here and then get rid of the wire. So you can see again, we're back to the way we were with this low resolution version of our 3D model. So now we can come back in here and add again the subdivision surface. So now it's on level 2 again, because we only have to do it on level 1. It's basically the same thing that we had when we had not applied the subdivision surface modifier and it was set on 2. See, it's just going back to the way it was. And now if you do tab, you'll see that now we get actually more vertices to work with. Okay, so this is completely different than what we had, because we had a very low resolution version of the 3D model. And this is an important concept, because what this means is that you can actually come in here in the sculpt mode. This is another area of Blender. And without touching this, don't touch that, the sculpting mode will allow you to actually start manipulating these facial structures, right? And the reason it's doing that is because it's actually, if you click on the wire over here in the subdivision on, if I just remove this, I'm just going to remove this. You can see that the way the sculpting concept works, that it modifies each vertex. You see this when I click on the vertex? And if I zoom in and click in the middle, it doesn't do anything. So this is why we're using it this way, is because later if you come in and want to create some kind of a creature with this template 3D model, you can just come in here and start manipulating just these vertices, right? It's not going to care about the second subdivision. It's only going to care about what the original model vertices are in edges, right? So we can come in here and start just touching this, okay? So that's another concept that I want you to understand. Okay, so now I'm going to go back one more time to this over here. Now, click on this and go back and do tab. So the reason I'm telling you all this stuff is because it has to do with this vertex right over here. So I'm just going to click on this. So if you take a look over here, you'll see that this vertex or this vertex is floating in the middle of this edge, and it's giving you this squiggly line over here. Basically what Blender is telling you over here is that it is a really good idea to just remove this vertex and let Blender handle the underlying structure, which will always be a quad. Okay, this is why it appears in this funny way. See, this is completely different from this vertex over here, because you've got these edges that are connecting, so you get this intersecting line. Okay, so I'm going to now show you something over here. So I'm going to do a tab to go into object mode, and I'm going to click on this over here and go back to wire and draw all edges. So you see that if we do not remove that vertex, what's happening over here is that Blender is getting confused. It doesn't know what to do or how to handle that situation. So why is it getting confused? Well, because if you go back to tab, you can see that we've already understood what a quad is. A quad is something that is made up of 4 vertices, right? And a quad is made up of 2 triangles. So you can see that it's happening over here. But what happens is because this vertex is between these 2 quads, it doesn't know where to place it. So it doesn't know what to do with the, I guess you could say the triangle. So if it came in here, if I just click on this and turn this off, just move this, you can see that I'm going to get some kind of a division of the triangle, but then over here, this is no longer a quad. Well, it is still a quad over here, but it looks like a triangle, and then we're pushing it in, right? So it doesn't know what to do with how to place. It's like it's saying that there's going to be some kind of an overlap because it can't figure out how to position this correctly. Okay, so now I'm just going to undo those movements. You can reload the file again and just come back to this over here. Okay, so now I've done everything, undone everything. So now let's take a look at what exactly is going to happen if we remove this vertex. So first I'm going to do tab to go into object mode. Click on this and make sure that I'm on wire and draw all. So I want you to pay close attention to over here what Blender is going to do. Remember, to us, what's important is this subdivision, this level 1. See this? It's going weird over here. So let's see what happens. So if I'm going to do tab, I'm going to click on this, I'm going to do X, and I'm going to do dissolve vertices. So now what's happened here is that we've got a triangle. But remember, in the back of our mind, we know that this triangle really is not a big deal to us because we're using the subdivision surface. We know for a fact that it's actually going, the underlying structure is going to be a quad. So now, if I do tab, look in this area over here. If I do tab, you can see that what Blender did was automatically fix this area for us with a quad. Okay? And if we increase this, you can see that everything's back to normal. So what does this mean though? It means simply that you shouldn't feel frustrated when you are creating your 3D models with this concept of rotating edges, that once in a while you will get these special areas on your 3D model where the vertex will be floating in the middle. And when you get that wiggly line, you'll be able to tell right away that, okay, well, that means that the way we rotated a certain face, we're hitting a problem area. And what Blender is suggesting, that it's better to just delete that vertex, okay? Now, you're not really going to get these situations very often. And especially in this formula-based system, we're going to only see this issue appear a few more times. But we need those issues to appear in order to create the correct topology, okay? So you really don't have to get into heated arguments about this concept of quads and triangles should never exist in your 3D model when you're using the subdivision modifier, because it just has to do with these very special cases, right? We can add these triangles to these very specific areas on the 3D model where we're not going to be dealing with joint systems, okay? So I just want to get that concept across to you, that this idea of these floating vertices can appear, but you shouldn't feel frustrated about those as long as those floating vertices appear in an area of the model which you know is not going to be animated. You can look at it that way, okay? And then you can simply delete that vertex, knowing full well that the underlying structure at all times is always going to be a quad from Blender's point of view. Okay, so the subdivision surface really is nothing more than a cage that allows you to create a three-dimensional structure which is always created with quads. Okay, so I just want to make sure that you understand that. So what you should do is basically just go ahead and open up that file, right click this, do tab, and just go and find this vertex. You should see it if you've been following along, and just do X and dissolve this vertex. So now you know that, okay, it's no big deal. It's just going to be a quad. So just do tab, go to your front view, and just you can go back to the way it was. Okay. Now I'm just going to show you one other thing over here. So if you do tab, you'll see that we have another vertex over here. So this type of vertex is actually going to disappear when we create the ellipse, but it's also going to appear in the neck one more time. And later you will see that I'm going to actually tell you to remove that vertex when it's right smack in the middle of the mirror modifier, right? So if we do tab and click on this and click on the wire, you'll see that it's behaving the same way. And if we remove that vertex, which we're not going to right now, you will see that it automatically removes this area over here and creates the quads for you. Okay, so you'll see how this works later on. So don't touch this vertex over here, leave that be. So I'm just going to go ahead and switch to rendered mode over here. And now, having deleted that one floating vertex in the ear, we're going to go under file, and we're just going to make sure that we save it as lesson 4. Okay, so I will see you in the next lesson. Thank you.